She didn't mean to invite me. That's the part one keep turning over in my mind. The email must have been automated. Maybe someone in HR hit all contacts or used an old distribution list. But there it was, blinking at me like some twisted joke. Join us for Lexington and Gray's annual winter gala. Formal attire. RSVP required. And right beneath that, her name. Melissa Cooper, VP of Brand Experience. I hadn't heard that name in 3 years. Not since I walked out of our home with nothing but a duffel bag and a heart that felt like shattered glass packed in skin. She didn't know I had stayed in the same city. She probably thought I had fled to another state or maybe another country after what she did. After they did. I wanted her to believe that. I needed her to believe that. But fate or karma or some bored god with a dark sense of humor, whatever you want to call it, had other plans. I clicked RSVP. That single click cracked open a vault I had welded shut. I wasn't just attending a party. I was walking back into a story I'd burned to the ground. Let me take you back. It started with a phone. Not mine. Hers. Melissa never left her phone lying around. Ever. But that Friday evening, she did. She said she was heading to a team dinner and left in a rush, forgetting it on the kitchen counter. Screen still lit up with a half-written text. I didn't look. First, I told myself, she's probably messaging her assistant. But as minutes passed, something itched in my gut. That screen lit up again. Can't wait to see you again tonight. That hotel has the best view. Bring that dress. The red one. My hands didn't shake. They clenched. Every part of me wanted it to be a mistake. A scam. A joke. But it wasn't. 30 minutes later, I was in my car following her location using the Find My app we once set up when she lost her phone on vacation. I pulled up outside a downtown boutique hotel. Definitely not the restaurant she claimed she was going to. My stomach turned to stone. I parked, waited, and watched. A man arrived. Tall. Confident. Too confident. I recognized him instantly. Her boss. Jonathan Carr. CEO of Lexington and Gray. They didn't sneak in. They didn't even pretend to keep it professional. She kissed him outside the entrance like they were some fairy tale couple. I remember thinking, they've done this before. A lot. I couldn't move. I just sat there, watching, the heat from my own body fogging up the windshield. I didn't confront her that night. I waited until morning. When she came home, I was calm. Too calm. She smiled, kissed my cheek, and lied right to my face. Said the team dinner ran late. I nodded. I asked if she had fun. She said yes. Then I held up her phone. Looks like Jonathan had fun too, I said. Her face drained of color. She tried to grab it, but I had already airdropped the messages, photos, and location data to my laptop. She knew she was caught. And even then, she didn't cry. She didn't beg. She laughed. You don't get it, she said. This life? It was never enough for me. That night I didn't scream. I didn't break anything. I simply stood up, walked into our bedroom, packed a single bag, and left. I didn't even say goodbye. She tried calling a few times after that. Left voicemails. Some angry, some weepy. I never responded. I cut her off entirely. Moved into a friend's garage apartment. Sold my car. Changed my number. Deleted every trace of her online. To her, I disappeared. But 3 years later, I clicked RSVP, and she had no idea what was coming. The night of the party, I stood across the street for 20 minutes before walking in. The hotel was lit up like a jewelry box, every glass panel gleaming, the ballroom pulsing with elegant music and laughter. I could already hear the clink of champagne flutes, the low murmur of suits and sequins doing business with fake smiles. I wasn't dressed to impress. Just clean, classic, black tie. Fitting in wasn't the goal. Being noticed by one person was. Inside, the atmosphere reeked of corporate glamour. Gold-draped tables, polished ice sculptures, and catered hors d'oeuvres nobody really ate. I moved like a ghost through the crowd, nodding politely, quietly scanning faces. I spotted Jonathan first. Still smug, still center stage, surrounded by yes-men. Then her. Melissa. She looked older. Still beautiful, still poised. but there was a sharpness to her now, an edge behind the eyes. Her laugh was louder than it used to be, forced almost. She wore red, of course she did. Same color as the dress from that message I'd never forgotten. I stayed behind a marble column, watching. My heart didn't race. My hands didn't sweat. I just waited. Then she turned, and everything froze. Her smile dropped like a mask slipping off. She blinked, tilted her head, and stared as if her brain couldn't catch up to what her eyes were telling her. I didn't move. I let the recognition crawl over her like a slow burn. She took one shaky step forward, then another, and then I saw it. Her chest rose sharply, her lips parted, and she dropped her champagne glass. It shattered. All eyes turned. She covered her mouth. And then, she cried. Right there in front of her entire company. Not the fake kind of crying you do when you're overwhelmed or pretending. I'm talking about real sobbing, shoulders heaving, makeup breaking. The kind of tears you only shed when you realize a ghost from your past has come back with eyes that say, I survived you. I didn't say a word. I didn't walk toward her. I simply stood in the light. And for the first time, she looked small. People were whispering. Someone from HR rushed to her side and tried to guide her away. But she didn't move. Melissa just stood there, face soaked, trembling. I could see her mind spinning. Was I real? Was I here for revenge? For closure? For her? She looked terrified of the answer. Jonathan came over, obviously annoyed at the scene she was making. When he spotted me, his expression shifted instantly. His jaw tightened, eyes narrowed like he was trying to calculate damage control. He leaned toward her, whispered something. She shook her head violently and pulled away, like she couldn't bear the feel of him near her anymore. I didn't expect that. I stayed a few more minutes, long enough for people to start asking questions. Who is that guy? Why is she crying? Then I left, slipping out through the back without a word. I didn't need to do anything more. My presence alone had done the job. But I didn't go home right away. I walked the city for hours, remembering the night I left her and everything that came after. In the weeks following that night 3 years ago, my life unraveled quickly. Melissa had frozen the joint accounts within days, and I realized she had been preparing for this, had a lawyer, had her narrative ready. He left out of nowhere, she claimed. I think he had a breakdown. She even told some of our friends that I'd been cheating on her. Gaslighting 101. But I didn't fight her. I vanished instead. Took the apartment above a print shop owned by a retired vet named Raymond. Paid rent in cash. Worked nights stocking shelves, then started freelancing as a data analyst remotely. No one knew where I was, not my parents, not my former coworkers. I cut every tie that connected me to the life I had with her. For the first year, I barely spoke to anyone. I didn't go on dates, didn't make friends. I just existed. Then one night, sitting in a laundromat at 2 a.m., I looked at myself in the reflection of a vending machine and saw someone else. Someone quieter, colder, but stronger. That's when I knew. I didn't need her closure. I had built something far better, peace. So why did I go to the party? Because part of me wanted her to see what I looked like when she no longer had control. Because part of me wanted her to feel what it was like to be powerless in front of a room full of people who expected her to have it all together. And maybe, because I knew that was only the beginning. What I hadn't expected was what would happen after I left the party. The messages, the voicemail, the person waiting outside my building the next morning. She wasn't done. But neither was I. The knock came just after sunrise. I hadn't slept. I sat on the edge of my bed in the apartment that still smelled faintly of printer ink and old wood. My phone, which had been silent for years, now buzzed like a warning beacon. 10 missed calls, 2 voicemails, all from a blocked number. And then, the knock. I looked through the peephole and froze. Melissa, not the polished, glowing version from the party. This was her stripped bare. No makeup, no mask, hair tied up like she hadn't even thought about it. Her eyes were swollen, red. She didn't look like she'd slept either. She wasn't crying now, though. She looked wrecked. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. She stood there, searching my face for some kind of softness. I gave her nothing. You were really there, she whispered. I thought I imagined you. I said nothing. Why did you come? You invited me. That hit her like a slap. Her shoulders slumped. I didn't know, she muttered. I swear. I didn't mean to. Tyler, please. Just talk to me. I don't think there's anything left to say. There's everything to say, she snapped, suddenly more alive. You disappeared. No one knew where you went. I thought you were dead. I raised an eyebrow. You thought I was dead but still kept spending my half of the savings? Her face crumpled. That wasn't me. That was the lawyers. I scoffed. You mean your lawyers? The ones you had waiting while you were in a hotel room with your boss. She bit her lip. That ended a long time ago. Before or after the job title promotion? That one landed. She flinched hard. I deserved that, she admitted. But I didn't deserve to be erased. I leaned against the doorframe. Funny. That's exactly how I felt. Watching you kiss another man like our marriage was a speed bump you forgot to slow down for. She looked like she might cry again. I didn't care. You said this life wasn't enough for you, I reminded her. You chose what came next. And I let you have it. I didn't choose this, she said suddenly. I chose a moment. A stupid, impulsive moment. But I never chose losing you forever. Her voice cracked, and for a split second she looked like the woman I used to love. And that made it worse. You don't get to rewrite history because it hurts now, I said. You wrote the ending the day you lied to my face and then laughed about it. She reached into her coat pocket and handed me something. A flash drive. What's this? Everything, she said quietly. Texts, emails, voicemails, legal documents, bank logs, things I should have destroyed, things you never saw, things you need to see. Why? Because I need you to know I wasn't always lying. And because I don't want to carry this alone anymore. I didn't take it. Not yet. She placed it on the floor and backed away. I'll leave. Just, if you ever want to know the full truth, start there. Then she turned and walked down the hallway back into the morning light. I closed the door and stared at the flash drive. I wasn't sure if I was ready for her truth, but I knew I was done running from it. I waited 2 days before I opened it. The flash drive sat untouched on my kitchen counter like a ticking bomb. I must have walked past it 50 times, always glancing but never reaching. I didn't know what scared me more, finding out something new or realizing that she'd already told me the worst of it 3 years ago and this was just leftovers. On the third night, after pouring 2 fingers of bourbon I hadn't touched in months, I plugged it into my laptop. It auto-launched a folder titled, I'm sorry. Inside were subfolders with dated names. Some from before the affair, others from the peak of it, and a few after I'd left. I opened the first one, dated 4 months before everything fell apart. The first file was a screen recording of a video chat between her and her boss, Jonathan. It didn't start inappropriate. Just banter. Ideas. Campaigns. Compliments. But then, around the 10-minute mark, it shifted. He told her she was the smartest woman in the company. That he couldn't stop thinking about her when she wasn't in the office. That her marriage was a waste of potential. And she laughed. Not nervously. Not uncomfortably. She laughed like she agreed. My stomach clenched. I opened another file, emails. There were dozens, sometimes 2 or 3 a day. Some about meetings. Others clearly personal. And then there were the hotel receipts. Scanned PDFs, different dates, different cities. Same pattern. But then I hit a folder labeled Never Sent. These were drafts. Emails Melissa had written but never sent to me. Some were full of excuses, trying to justify why she did it. Others were apologies so raw they read like confessions written in blood. One in particular stopped me cold. She had found out she was pregnant 3 weeks before I left. She wrote that she wasn't sure whose it was, mine or Jonathan's. She scheduled an abortion without telling anyone. The appointment was the day before I confronted her. She never went. That's when it hit me. She hadn't just betrayed me. She had spiraled. She hadn't just wanted more, she had lost herself chasing it. I opened the last file. A video. Recorded a week after I disappeared. She sat alone on our couch, eyes swollen, speaking directly into the camera. I don't blame you for hating me. I deserve it. But if I could undo any moment in my life, it wouldn't be the affair. It wouldn't even be the lying. It would be the moment I looked you in the face and laughed. That was the moment I became someone I don't even recognize. And you deserved more than a stranger in your house. She looked away for a long time, then whispered, I wish you had stayed. Not for me, but so I could tell you everything before the guilt got louder than my pride. I closed the laptop. My chest felt hollow. I wasn't sure what I had just inherited. Pain? Closure? Or a new kind of burden? That night, I didn't sleep. I kept hearing her voice from that video and I couldn't decide what terrified me more, that I still hated her or that part of me didn't. The morning after watching the video, I called in sick, though no one was expecting me at the office. Freelancing gave me the illusion of freedom, but that day I didn't feel free. I felt exposed. I stared at the dark screen of my laptop and all I could think about was her face in that recording. She looked haunted. But it was the kind of haunted you bring on yourself. I had every reason to shut the door again. To erase the drive, delete the messages, and go back to the version of life where she didn't exist anymore. But instead, I made coffee. Strong. Black. And I sat with the weight of everything she'd given me, trying to figure out what the hell I was supposed to do with it. Around noon, there was a buzz at the building entrance. I expected it to be a package or maybe Raymond downstairs needing help with the fuse box again. But when I answered, the voice on the other end froze me cold. Tyler. It's Jonathan. I didn't respond at first. I thought maybe it was a mistake. Maybe someone playing a sick joke. I know this is unexpected, he continued. But I'm outside. And I think we need to talk. I should have told him to go to hell. Should have let the silence speak for me. But instead, I unlocked the door. He was standing there in a tailored coat, expensive shoes, and a look that tried to be humble but still reeked of boardroom confidence. Same smug bastard. Except now, I noticed the cracks, hair a little thinner, posture a bit more uncertain. He looked around my modest hallway like it offended him. I didn't offer him a seat. What do you want? I asked. He cleared his throat. Look, I know I'm probably the last person you want to see. But Melissa told me she came to you. That she gave you everything. So I wanted to give you something too. The other side of the story. I laughed. I couldn't help it. You think I want to hear your excuses? He held up his hand. Not excuses. Facts. Because if you think this was some grand romance between us, you're wrong. It wasn't love. It wasn't even lust. It was strategic. She was ambitious. I was convenient. And we both got burned. He reached into his coat and handed me a sealed envelope. What is this? A non-disclosure agreement. Retroactive. It was drafted during the internal investigation after you left. She refused to sign it. Said she owed you the truth. I narrowed my eyes. Wait, internal investigation? He nodded. The board found out. She was demoted within months. That VP title didn't last. The affair cost her more than you know. I stared at him, trying to decide if he was lying or just desperately trying to rewrite history now that it no longer served him. He leaned in. You're the only person who came out of this clean, Tyler. Don't let her drag you back in. And just like that, he left. I stood there holding a legal document I didn't ask for, filled with implications I didn't understand. But I wasn't thinking about Jonathan anymore. I was thinking about Melissa. She hadn't just lost me. She'd lost everything. And I finally realized I wasn't the one who disappeared. She did. A week passed. I didn't contact her. I didn't respond to her texts or return her final voicemail, the one that simply said, I know you've seen everything now. But I haven't told you the last part. I want to. In person. I didn't think I owed her that. I'd already spent years cleaning up the wreckage she left behind, rebuilding my identity out of ruins she never bothered to look at again. But her silence after that message was louder than any apology. No more calls. No notes slipped under my door. No more pleading. I thought maybe she'd given up. Then I got the invitation. It wasn't emailed. It wasn't sent by courier. It was hand-delivered to Raymond downstairs, sealed in a pale blue envelope with my name in her handwriting. Dinner. No expectations. One conversation. That's all I ask. Friday, 7 p.m. A reservation was already made at the restaurant we used to celebrate our anniversary every single year for almost a decade. I hadn't stepped foot in that place since the last time she smiled at me across a candlelit table, swore I was everything she ever wanted, and then tore it all apart behind my back. I don't know why I went. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the way her video still echoed in my mind some nights, quiet but unrelenting. Or maybe, deep down, I just wanted to look her in the eye and see if she still recognized the man who walked away without a word. When I arrived, she was already there. She stood when she saw me, unsure if she should smile or apologize. She didn't do either. She just sat back down and waited for me to join her. The silence between us wasn't tense, it was hollow. Like two people sitting in the grave of something they once built together. I didn't think you'd come, she said finally. I almost didn't. She nodded like she deserved that. Maybe she did. For a while, we didn't speak. Just ordered food, made small talk about traffic, weather, anything but us. But when dessert arrived and she still hadn't said whatever final truth she hinted at, I couldn't keep pretending. You said there was something I didn't know. Something left. She looked down at her plate for a long time. When she finally looked back up, her voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. I was planning to leave him, she said. Jonathan. I ended it right before you found out. I raised an eyebrow. Why? Because the fantasy got too real? No, she said. Because I found out he was sleeping with someone else. Someone younger. And when I confronted him, he laughed in my face. Just like I did to you. I didn't speak. That's when I realized what I had become. Not just what I did to you, but what I let myself turn into. She wiped the corner of her eye, not crying yet, but on the edge. I didn't lose everything because of the affair, she continued. I lost everything because I burned down the only real thing I ever had, you. I should have felt vindicated. I didn't. I felt empty. Like I'd already mourned her years ago, and now I was staring at a ghost who hadn't even realized she died. I set down my fork. You're not asking for forgiveness, I said. No, she whispered. I'm asking if there's anything left in you that once loved me enough to believe I was human. I looked at her for a long time. And then I said the one thing she hadn't expected. I believe you were human. I just stopped believing you were mine. And I stood up. She didn't follow. This time she let me go. A month passed. Then, too. After that dinner, I didn't hear from her again. No texts. No emails. No unexpected visits. It was as if she'd finally understood what silence really meant. And maybe for the first time, she chose to respect it. I tried to forget, but forgetting isn't a switch you flip. It's more like fog. Some mornings it lifts, other days it clings to your bones. I'd walk through my small apartment, see shadows of a life that once existed, not because I missed her, but because I missed who I was before it all. Melissa didn't ruin me. She revealed me. She forced me to face what love without truth becomes, a cage. And once I stepped outside of it, I didn't want to go back in, no matter how soft her voice had become or how sincere her apology sounded under restaurant lights. But closure doesn't always come in dramatic speeches or grand gestures. Sometimes it comes in the quietest way possible, by living a life where their name no longer needs to be spoken out loud. Still, one night in early spring, I walked past that same hotel where the company gala had been held, where she had cried the moment she saw me after 3 years. I stopped on the sidewalk and looked up at the ballroom window. There were new decorations, new faces, new music. But I remembered. I remembered the way she shattered when she realized I was real. I remembered the look of someone realizing too late that not everything broken can be rebuilt. And for the first time, I didn't feel angry or hurt. I just felt done. As I turned to leave, I caught a reflection in the window, my own. Different. Older. Wiser. Alone, but not empty. I don't know where she is now. Maybe she finally moved out of the city. Maybe she stayed and built something quieter. I hope she did. I hope truly that she found whatever it was she thought I couldn't give her. Because I've found peace, and that's worth more than any apology could have ever bought. She cried that night in front of everyone. And I didn't have to say a single word. Because the truth had already spoken.